Evening. I can't tell you what a pleasure and an honor it is to be here with you this evening. I've been hearing about Girls Right Now for probably a few years now because my friend and colleague Emma Straub has been a mentor with the organization. And I feel a little bit envious, I have to confess. I wish so much that there'd been an organization like this when I was first starting to write, when I was a teenager. I thought that I'd talk for a couple of minutes and then read very briefly from Station 11. I wanted to talk about an interesting experience I had a few months ago. I did an event at a university, and the audience was made up almost entirely of creative writing students. And afterwards, one of them came up to me, which sometimes happens, and asked if I had any advice for writers who are just starting out in their careers. So I started to go through the practical things that I always find myself talking about at those moments. If you want to be a writer, you have to write, which sounds obvious, but sometimes isn't. More specifically, you have to finish things. It's so easy to start poems and stories and novels and operas or whatever else it is that you're writing, but it's by finishing it. It's by working through the problems that come up in your plot or in your rhymes or the rhythm of your prose. That's where you start to improve as a writer. So I went through that. You have to finish things. The other thing that I think bears repeating is that if writing is something that you want to do professionally, don't assume that the publishing world is closed to you. I think there's a really damaging and incorrect assumption out there that if you want to publish novels, publish books, you have to know the right people, or go to the right parties, or have the right kind of education, or live in the right neighborhood. And it's just really absolutely not true. I assume those things don't hurt, but the publishing world's full of people whose job it is to find new and interesting work. And personally, I don't have a high school diploma, and I knew absolutely no one when I was starting out as a writer. So, there are opportunities. But then, as I was talking to this student at the university event, I saw that I wasn't really getting at what she wanted to hear. And as we kept talking, I realized that she was asking me something a little bit different. What she was asking me was something more along the lines of, how should she be? How should she conduct herself as she began to move through the world as a writer, as she began to make the transition to writing professionally and began meeting people and having her work become more widely known, publishing in magazines, doing readings. And so I started to sort of fumble through, ideas that were coming to mind about professional conduct. And I realized that almost everything I was saying was really coming back to the same thing. That what I was really telling her was, you have to be kind. And, it's interesting. Of course, the most important thing, if you want to be a writer, is the quality of your writing. We all start out as terrible writers, and then we practice and practice and practice, and as with anything, we improve through time and hard work. But there's something else that I think is important, and that is that you want to be someone who other people want to work with. Given a choice between working with someone who's really great at what they do, but kind of impossible to deal with, or working with someone who's great at what they do, but also an absolute pleasure to be around, most sane people will pick that second person. And that, by the way, is true of whatever you do, whether you become a writer or a teacher or a lawyer or an electrician. I think it's true in everything. There's something else that I came across recently. It was an interview with the novelist Eleanor Catton, who won the Booker Prize last year for her novel, The Luminaries. She said something interesting in an interview not long after that. She said, kindness is a core value for any artist, but most especially for a fiction writer. A self-centered person can't see the world from another person's point of view. In other words, if you agree with Eleanor, and personally I do, there's an opportunity by being kind to become a better writer. That will help your work. It will help you get into the heads of your characters. It will help you understand your own writing and understand other people. And where this can become kind of interesting is when you also think about ambition. And it's interesting. It's almost as though ambition is a dirty word. Something kind of funny that's happened to me a few times is the topic of ambition will come up in conversation. And I'll say, yeah, I'm a very ambitious person. And I am. I aspire to write books that are truly great. I've always been an extremely ambitious person. I'll admit that. And the person I'm talking to will say, but you seem so nice. Which is kind of funny, because when did we confuse those two things? It's almost as though we have a tendency to confuse being ambitious with being a sociopath. Those things have nothing to do with each other. I understand how that confusion arose, because in popular culture, in TV and movies, very ambitious people, especially very ambitious women, do tend to be portrayed as being absolutely ruthless. The kind of people who will throw their friends under a bus to get ahead. But look, here's the dictionary definition. Ambition is a strong desire to do or to achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. There's absolutely nothing negative about that. And as girls, we're often taught to be nice. We're taught to be gentle. But what you know by now is that we also have to be strong. And you know what? You can be both. I'd just like to point out something I wish someone had told me when I was a teenager, when I was first beginning to write, which is that being strong, being ambitious, moving with all your heart, wholeheartedly, toward a goal that to everybody else might seem crazy, aspiring to be second to no one in your field. Those things are perfectly compatible with helping your friends succeed, helping other people in their writing and their work, whenever and in whatever way you can. You can be an extremely ambitious person and also be the kind of person who's kind and helps other people. I'm going to read just for a moment from Station 11 because I want to hear what the other readers have to say. This is a very brief chapter. This will take 2 minutes. This is from a point in the book when the world is changing. The flu pandemic has just arrived in North America, and civilization as we know it has begun to collapse. And it's a bit of a litany of things that would disappear following a collapse like that. An incomplete list. No more diving into pools of chlorinated water, lit green from below. No more ball games played out under floodlights. No more porch lights with moths fluttering on summer nights. No more trains running under the surface of cities on the dazzling power of the electric third rail. No more cities. No more films, except rarely, except with a generator drowning out half the dialogue. And only then for the first little while until the fuel for the generators ran out, because automobile gas goes stale after 2 or 3 years. Aviation gas lasts longer, but it was difficult to come by. No more screens shining in the half-light as people raise their phones above the crowd to take photographs of concert stages. No more concert stages lit by candy-colored halogens. No more electronica, punk, electric guitars. No more pharmaceuticals. No more certainty of surviving a scratch on one's hand, a cut on a finger while chopping vegetables for dinner, a dog bite. No more flight. No more towns glimpsed from the sky through airplane windows, points of glimmering light. No more looking down from 30,000 feet and imagining the lives lit up by those lights at that moment. No more airplanes. No more requests to put your tray table in its upright and locked position. But no, this wasn't true. There were still airplanes here and there. They stood dormant on runways. They collected snow on their wings. In the cold months, they were ideal for food storage. In summer, the ones near orchards were filled with trays of fruit that dehydrated in the heat. Rust blossomed and streaked. No more countries, all borders unmanned. No more fire departments, no more police. No more road maintenance or garbage pickup. No more spacecraft rising up from Cape Canaveral, from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, from Vandenberg, Tanegashima, burning paths through the atmosphere into space. No more internet. No more social media. No more scrolling through litanies of dreams and nervous hopes and photographs of lunches, cries for help and expressions of contentment, and relationship status updates with heart icons whole or broken, plans to meet up later, pleas, complaints, desires, pictures of babies dressed as bears or peppers for Halloween. No more reading and commenting on the lives of others, and in so doing, feeling slightly less alone in the room. No more avatars. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first reader, Misbah Awan.